rollers. There is a lot out there, and it seems like there's getting to be more and more every day. So I thought I'd make a bit of a video to go over some of the general types, general things about them. I might break it out into a couple different videos in the future to go over some things in a little bit more detail. So starting at kind of the biggest end, your big foam rollers, okay? These come in a number of different shapes, sizes, textures, firmnesses. It really depends on you and your body and what you want from it. You can get ones made out of just a very, very simple, dense foam material. These also come in a full size, and they get really, really long. The difficulty with the really long ones is that they end up becoming really unwieldy when you're trying to roll out different parts of your body, but it really depends on what you want. If you like laying on your back on one and just letting everything roll open, then the really long ones can be beneficial, because this is going to be a little bit too short to lay your entire spine against and be able to open up. You can also get ones kind of like this, where it is a nice lovely piece of basically PVC piping with a bit of foam on the outside. Some of them are a little bit more aggressively foamed than others. This is what I use most of the time to roll pretty much everything. Something like this, if it starts to wear, it can get a little bit soft and squishy, whereas this, because it's a hard inside, if this starts to break down, it doesn't really lose its ability to roll, okay? The really cool thing about something like this is that because of this nice lovely wrapper, you can then store some of your smaller self-care items inside of it. It's designed for travel, and so it can just pop into a bag or a suitcase, and you can fill it up, and it's really not much wasted space, okay? The main difference is with something like this, it's going to be smaller in diameter than something like the orange one. So this is going to automatically be a little bit more aggressive. The smaller the diameter of what you're rolling with, the more aggressive it's going to be, because it's going to get into some of those nooks and crannies a little bit better. When we get into things more like this, okay? I call these the rolling pins. Some people call them the stick. These ones are really good. You can get into some more of the specific areas. You can work through your neck really nicely like that. These ones are really great, but again, if you have something kind of like this, which we'll get to in a minute, you can kind of make do without something super fancy like that. You can get them in different sizes, shapes. This one has a couple different segments. This one is just one, and it's a little bit more aggressive. It's got a little bit more texture to it. These are really great when you don't really want to get on the ground with one of these and start doing some foam rolling against the ground, but you can still get some pretty good work through your quads, your hamstrings, your calves. This one doesn't work so great for your back, but they're also really good at getting things like forearms. Something like this isn't going to work for your forearms or your arms. Whereas with this, you can use it to end up getting your forearms with a couple different methods, okay? We also have various sizes, shapes, and makeups of just general round things, balls to roll yourself out with. Okay. Depending on the size and the firmness, you can roll out different parts of your body. Something like this isn't going to get into the nooks and crannies of your body very well, whereas different diameter, the different circumference of what you're rolling with will dramatically change how intense it is. So if you're rolling out a larger part of your body and you don't really want it to be too terribly intense, you want to go with something that's a little bit bigger. The difference, though, is I wouldn't use this to roll my feet out because it's too big and I can't get into some of those nooks and crannies. Okay? The texture of these balls, again, make them a little bit more intense, but also something like this is going to be a lot more expensive because it's designed for massaging. These are my go-to. Tennis ball. If you know somebody who plays tennis, you can get them for pretty much nothing. Even if you don't, and you go to the sports store and you buy a pack of tennis balls, they're really not that expensive. Buying something like this, if you need the texture, great. Otherwise, a couple bucks and you've got yourself something great for foam rolling. Same thing with a lacrosse ball. If you see something advertised as a massage ball or something like this, oftentimes it's just a lacrosse ball that's a different color and comes in with some branding on it or something like that. Just go buy a lacrosse ball. They're firmer than a tennis ball. A tennis ball has quite a bit of give. So if you're working in an area that has a pretty acute injury, tennis balls are great because they're going to deform before they can create too much pressure on your body. The one difficulty is because they're fuzzy, they tend to slip, whereas a lacrosse ball is a little bit stickier, so it doesn't slip against whatever surface yourself against. Then we have things kind of like this. You can get fancy ones. Some people call these a monkey fist or peanut. Whatever it is you call it, it's basically two tennis balls, lacrosse balls, firm something inside a fabric cloth packaging. You can also make them with athletic tape. This one is a homemade version. This is a store-bought version. The nice thing about this is if you are traveling or you're limited in space, you simply take one of the balls out and you have your ball for foam rolling other nooks and crannies. Whereas with this one, because it's homemade, you can't really take it apart and put it back together super easily. But a pack of tennis balls comes in a pack of 3. This one is out free to roll. I took the other 2, put them in a clean, used sock, cut off the foot of the sock, tied up the ends, and there you have a homemade monkey fist. Then we get into some of the fancier items, okay? Something like this, unless you're working on your quads or your arms, it can be really difficult to use for yourself. So if you have a partner that doesn't mind helping you with your soft tissue injuries, this can be really, really good for your back as well. But again, this or a lacrosse ball can sometimes take the place of this, except for if you're using it in your calves or something like that, or quads. These things I use as a massage therapist, but unless you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, these can be a little bit not worth it. If you have limited space, if you have limited funds, something like this is more for a very specific use, very specific injuries, and can be a little bit not quite worth it, in my humble opinion. If you have these and you absolutely love them, don't hesitate to tell me why you love them, and maybe I'll make another video. Then we get into the electronics. These are things that are becoming much more popular these days. One of the things with this is it's really, really great for some things, and it's really not so great for others. You can get some good pressure into some areas that you wouldn't otherwise. The downfall is that these are not as valuable across the board as a lot of people think. People think, oh, I have something sore, therefore I need to get my thumper out, I need to get my Theragun, my Hyperice, my whatever brand it is you're going with. This is best when you have been maybe overdoing it a little bit the day before, you're a little bit stiff and sore, and you need to get yourself ready for another hard workout today. These are fantastic for those occasions. This is a fairly coarse vibration. If you notice, it's not super fine. It's actually, I don't know if you can see, but it's actually a pretty big vibration. That is why it's best for those. I overdid it a little bit and I need to get ready to go do something. But these are not good for acute injury. If you have an acute injury, this is not your go-to. You want something that is soft and squishy. You want to be gentle to that area. Whereas this is actually pretty aggressive. Something like this, very, very similar, but this is hard. And it has a very fine vibration, okay? Our bodies respond differently to coarse vibration than they do fine vibration. Coarse vibration is much more of the preparing. Fine vibration is really good for recovery. Finer vibration like this can help to relax a muscle and get it to let go. The problem is nerves don't like vibration. If you have ever mowed the lawn or something like that and you kind of come away from it and your hands feel fuzzy afterwards, that's because your nerves are fatigued, and you can end up actually creating some issues for yourself with your nerves if you use too much vibration for too long in the same area. Your body hurts and you want to know where to spend your money. The key things I recommend everybody has in their arsenal are a basic one of these. It doesn't have to be this fancy one, the plastic one, but this size of a foam roller. It can be made out of something like this, just that dense foam, really, really good for rolling everything in your body. You might not be able to get into some of the nooks and crannies, but this is your all-star, all-around foam roller. If you already have one and you're looking to improve, or if you're going, you know what, I don't have a lot of big areas that are problematic, I just have some of those really small niggles, I highly recommend either a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball. This one is really, really down to what your preference is and how much pressure you like. If you find you're going to the massage therapist and you're oftentimes telling them it's a little bit too much pressure, you need to lighten up, you like a little bit of that lighter pressure, then something like a tennis ball is probably going to be best for you. Or if you're dealing with an acute injury. If you are able to tolerate, if you enjoy a little bit more pressure, then a lacrosse ball is likely going to be a little bit more beneficial for you because the tennis ball is likely to deform before you can get to the pressure that you want. These are really, really great for getting into the nooks and crannies. So again, this is my minimum. If I'm going on a trip or anything like that, and I want my rolling accoutrement with me, I typically take this guy because it's little. I put my lacrosse ball in it, I put my tennis ball in it, and away I go. If I'm feeling fancy, if you are someone who has a lot of forearm work, if you have a lot of hand work, then I would suggest incorporating something like this. But unless you really need it, these can be a little bit of a dust collector. And really, the rest of it is something that you can build up slowly over time as you discover, you know what, this niggle or that niggle is coming on. But really, these are the very, very minimum. When it comes down to it, what works for you? What are you going to use? Those are the key points to take away from this. If you like this video, if this was helpful information, let me know. If you have any questions about foam rolling, let me know. I'm always looking for new ideas for videos. If you have a question, let me know and maybe I'll do a video for it.